when the dead are the last things to stay bare. Welcome to the Sean Geek Podcast. Doing a solo venture. I was going to say a solo joint here. Doesn't make any sense at all. I just came back from out of town, and while I was out of town, I brought this book along with me to read on the plane and on any free time that I had. And I came across this book called Graveyard Mind by Chadwick Ginther from Chizine Publications. Chizine Publications is a publisher. And I picked this book up because I had read part of the Thunder Road series. And it's very interesting perspective from a setting for his books that I really enjoyed. It's set in Winnipeg, and Winnipeg, I guess in Canada in general, but generally around Winnipeg, and pulls in a lot of Winnipeg landmarks into the story, and Winnipeg actually becomes a character in the story, which is something I really, really enjoy, and something that I'm actually I got some personal experience with way back in the day. And I've mentioned this in the show before. I ran a campaign that was centered around Winnipeg in an alternate history sort of scenario, where there was a couple things that happened different in World War II that affected the Winnipeg that we live in today. So this was my initial draw into Chadwick's writing. And I read the first book of his Thunder Road series, which I really, really liked. And I finally picked up the other two, which I'm probably going to read after this one. But this is not part of his trilogy. This is a new work, a new setting, new rules, and I kind of wonder if there might be some crossover between the two. And I think maybe in the back of Chadwick's mind, he might be thinking there might be crossover, and that'd be kind of cool. I like his storytelling style. I know Chadwick is a hardcore gamer, and by gamer I mean real gaming. I'm talking tabletop Dungeons and Dragons type of gaming. There's a few degrees of separation between Chadwick and myself, so I'm aware of the guy. I know what he does, and I'm familiar with the style of gameplay that he's involved in, because I actually game with one of his co-players as well. But anyway, I can tell this is a GM, a game master, that wrote this book. There's a lot of technique and styles that he's using in his books, particularly in this one, that just show where he's kind of coming from. As a GM, you can tend to be experimental and setting your tone and your story, and just seeing what you come back with, seeing how the characters and how the players react to the scenario you threw out there. And it might be more along the lines of just seeing, writing yourself into a corner, I guess, is something I do often, is as a GM, or when I'm writing my own work, I'll write myself into a corner and see if I can write myself out. You basically back yourself into a scenario that there's no way to get out of, and basically through your characters, you become your characters and figure out how they would actually get out of that situation. And when you're a GM, when you're running a game, that's often something that you'll do is, you'll do something to see what the characters are going to do to get out, and how they're going to role play their way out of that situation. I see a lot of that in this book in particular. And I also see Chadwick taking different steps to his story writing. I think there was a more thorough through line in Thunder Road. While this one, I think he's really taking some chances and he's trying some different ways to tell his story. The universe he's built is very, very interesting, and there's a whole set of rules to it which you know slowly are explored throughout the book. You kind of don't know what to expect. You don't know which way it's going to go because you don't know the rules of the world. But he's pretty good at making sure that, okay, this is what's happening here, and this is how the character's getting through it, and these are the rules for how they get through it. So you're learning a whole new science, because this is magic, but this isn't the typical magic that everyone's, you know, familiar with. This isn't Harry Potter. This isn't, you know, D&D. This is something else completely different kind of magic. Lots of different types of spells. This isn't traditional magic, which is nice. When I heard about the book and the premise behind the book, I was concerned that he might be riffing off of D20 Modern, which was a D&D spin-off off of Dungeons and Dragons that was set in a modern setting, and then they had these kind of cyberpunk qualities, and then they also had like their version of magic in the modern world. And it was nice and interesting to see he didn't exactly follow that route, because it would have been easy to write a horror book like this or set with a horror background and just kind of take that easy way out and use what's already out there. But it looks like he built a lot of rules and set up for how this universe works. So it was very, very interesting, and I like the interplay between the rules of the universe and the city that we're in and how the things play with each other. What was really, really interesting was it took a while to kind of figure out who the main character is and who she is and what she is. And I think there's a mystery to that, and the unraveling of the character as you get to know her through the story. You're learning who she is and what she is. You're not necessarily rooting for her at first, because it's not set up that way. You're not feeling sorry for her. You're not feeling empathy for her. You're not feeling, you know, oh, she's badass. You know, you're kind of like, you don't care for the character at first. But as the story progresses, as you get to know her, you get to like her. And I like that. There's I know Chadwick's a big music guy. Like he loves his music. And I think he's the kind of guy that listens to albums and finds love in music that in particular songs that you don't necessarily like on the first play. But as you become intimate with that song and hear it a few times and, you know, really entrench yourself in that song, you find different sides to it and different meanings to it. And I think getting to know the main character in this book, Winter, or Winnie for short, you kind of don't like her the first bit, but as you get to know her, like a great song after repeated plays, you get to see different sides and different dimensions, and you have a better appreciation for the character by the end, instead of liking her right out of the gate. And like, which you'll see often with one-note characters, they're, you know, they're perfect right out of the gate. They're, you know, they're either that particular type of swarmy, like a Tony Stark, where you know you like him right away. There's charisma to the character. He's a bit of an ass, but you still like him right away, right out of the gate. With Winter, you don't. She seems a bit deplorable. In fact, there's, you know, a few things pointing to her not being a very good person at all, and you don't really feel any, oh, poor girl, you know, she's in the situation she's in. You know, it's sad that she has to play the role and you know, and work with the hand she's been dealt. You don't feel that for her, which is a different approach. And I'm not sure why he went that way, but it really feels like, you know, by the end of the book, you're like, you know what? I like this. I like this gal. You know, I think she's, there's more depth to her, and she's not a one-trick pony, and it's not you don't like her out of the gate, but you like her by the end. And that's a very risky type of storytelling, to have a character like that. And there isn't even a secondary character you can like to keep you going through the book. You actually have to take the perseverance to get through and actually see where the story is going to go. And once the story hits a certain apex, that's when you come back around to liking the character. It's very different style. Again, I'm not sure why he went that way, but it's tricky from a commercial aspect. But I think that's probably why Chai-Zine actually wanted him, because it is risky and it is tricky and it is not typical or outright commercial, but it's that sort of verve and different take on things that I think allows this book maybe to have a longer shelf life than a typical, and I'm not trying to shoot these people down, but a typical Jeffrey Archer or Sidney Sheldon or whatever, those authors where, oh, it's a lot of fun, but I'm probably not going to go back and read that book again. This has the ability to be read a second time, because now by the end of the book, now you know who the character is, and you may want to go back and reread the book to actually sink your teeth in and maybe enjoy the character more a second time around, because you know who she is after you've read it the first time. So very smart tricks he's doing here, and I think coming out of Thunder Road, which it did well. A lot of people talked about it. I think from a commercial perspective, right out of the gate, there was enough things in there to draw an audience in. Like right out of the gate, there was a lot of taglines to get people in. There was a lot of things that maybe were a bit more obviously commercial to bring people in to read the book. A much easier sell. Had this come out first as his first book, I think it would have had a longer shelf life, but it would have taken longer to sell. But now that he's got a name for himself off Thunder Road, I think he's got more options with taking a chance like this. And I think this book is more enjoyable because of how he's done how he did the trilogy first. So overall, yeah, you know what? I did like this book. I like when a world is built and rules are put in place, and it's not just assuming a bunch of standard fantasy tropes or horror tropes or science fiction tropes like this. He actually took the effort to actually build something and then put characters in that world, and you're learning how the world works as the story progresses. It's a very interesting style, and I think Chadwick did a really good job on this. So kudos to this. And am I going to recommend this? Yeah. Couple other interesting things on this. I think this probably should be played as a role-playing game. I think there's things similar to this out there. But one of the interesting things on the last page is get a playlist. And I think Chadwick and I are way too similar. But he's got his playlist for what got him through the writing, and how his story progressed was, based on listening to this playlist. I do exactly the same thing when I write my books. And I'm looking at this list, and I really, really like that I know a lot of these songs. Two, they're not all the same type of music. And I think I'm going to make a playlist out of this. So, actually, no, I'm not going to make a playlist out of this. Chadwick, if you're listening to this, and I hope you are, I think you should make this playlist available on whichever you use, Spotify or whomever, and you should actually make a playlist on there and call it the Graveyard Mind playlist. I think that would be a good idea to go about doing. Because A, it'll help promote your book, which is good, and B, I don't want to make the playlist myself. Why don't you make me a playlist? But I think you've given me a lot of great ideas. I think the sign of a good book is when you read the book and you want to go down and continue working on your own, which I really do. And I think I'm going to go and go write work on mine. So anyway, thanks, Chad. It was good. Liked it. And I'm hoping you take another chance on the next book you do and try something different yet again. Anyway, this is Seanorama from the Sean Geek Podcast, and we'll see you on the flip side. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, and all of those wonderful, wonderful things. And let people know about the podcast. Let people know what you like. Let people know the episodes that do it for you. I think that I think we're doing a good job on this show, and I would really like to see you guys share the show along. And if you're interested in subscribing, you can do so very, very easily on seanmcginnity.ca. You can do everything through that site. You can listen live or stream directly from my website, but you can also find us on Podbean, which is who we use for our home. And you can also find us on every single streaming service by looking up Sean Geek, one word, Sean Geek, and you can find us there. We're available on iTunes. We're available on or Apple Podcasts, I should say. We're available on Google Podcasts. We are available on Spotify, on iHeartRadio. We're available on just about everything. And if you can't find us, drop me a line. You can hit everything you need to do from seanmcginnity.ca and get it there, or from your favorite podcast provider. See ya.